Good evening everyone, and welcome to Stanley Town Council's Finance and General Purpose Committee meeting. This meeting is taking place on Tuesday the 10th of May 2022 at 6:30 p.m. at the Stanley Civic Hall and is live streamed to YouTube. It will be available for a minimum of 6 months, so please be aware footage from meetings could be used in media broadcasts. I'm Gordon Binney, Chair of the Finance and General Purposes Committee, and would like to extend a warm welcome to members, officers, members of the public and media who are watching this live stream. So we move on to the first item on the agenda, which is apologies for absence. I believe we have got some apologies.
Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Olga Milburn and apologies from Councillor Sam McMahon.
Are the members willing to accept the apologies? Okay, we move on to the next item, which is declarations of interests. Has any members any declarations to make regarding any item on this evening's agenda? No? Move on to item 3, which is any announcements from the Chair or the Town Clerk. You'd be pleased to hear I haven't got any announcements. I understand you have, Helen, yes?
Chair, I've just got a couple of short announcements. Firstly, can I apologise for the slight error in the paragraph on the front of the agenda that went out. We missed the change on the 10th of April to the 10th of May. However, everything that went out on the website and into notice boards was the correct date on all of the agendas, so please accept my apologies for that. In relation to attachment E this evening, which is the review of the reserves, that is going to be removed from tonight's agenda and be discussed tomorrow, because it's probably more appropriate to discuss tomorrow in light of the building discussion rather than tonight. However, we have had a couple of questions about the 192,000 surplus. So I just want to quickly just let you know how that's made up, as we have had questions about how that 192k has been made up. So it's 192,646 year end. It's a significant surplus which resulted from the resignation of the town clerk, which has led to a lack of action on progressing items which would normally have incurred costs. So there's 60,000 from the Civic Hall project budget and maintenance, 35,500 in relation to regeneration, which was the Stanley Master Plan, 28,000 in relation to the Money Advice Service, 10,000 across a number of Civic Hall nominal codes, 30,000 in relation to grants, and 30,000 ticket sale income, which was under budgeted due to a cautious approach following COVID. So that's how that 192,000 has been made up.
Okay. Is everyone happy with that? Okay. Move on to the next item, which is public participation. See, have we had any questions submitted, or?
We've had no questions and no public participation this evening.
Okay. We'll move on to the next item, which is item 5, which is the confirmation of the minutes for the Finance and General Purpose Committee meeting held on the 12th of April. Attachment A. Has anyone any issues regarding those minutes? Councillor Nicholson? So you're going to accept them? Anybody to second that? Sorry, Lee seconded it. Now we move on to item 6, which is the accounts payable and bank reconciliation. Again, for the March 22, schedules of payments, schedules of receipts, that's attachments B, C, and bank reconciliations accounts D. Again, has anyone any issues with that report? Helen?
Obviously we've been doing this for quite some time now, and it might just be me, but these accounts become clearer and clearer as thicker and thicker mud, and I just don't understand it. I'm not getting at anybody, and I'm not trying to be funny. I just don't know how we'll reconcile them on a monthly basis. I mean, I take it we get our bank statements online. Now, obviously, this is a March bank statement, but obviously the reflection of what's in March, and then when it was printed off in April, we've obviously had some additional funds put in there. Obviously, I've got no idea what those funds are. We clearly move money out of there all the time into the other two accounts. That's where I take it all of the money that we use day to day goes into the other two accounts that we have. Yeah. And obviously I'm only seeing one page of one where there's 9. So we're only getting the front page. Is that just to show us what's actually in that account at that particular time? Because obviously there's big chunks of money coming out of the big one, but there's no reflection in the other ones. So I'm just really confused.
Right, thanks, Helen. I'll try and relieve your confusion. So the purpose of the bank reconciliation and a copy of the bank statements are only to show you, so you don't need to be looking at the current balance, because that is as of the date, in this case the 11th of April, because that's when it was printed. But the figure you're interested in is the 30th of March, and the reason why we attach the bank statements is to prove that when you look at the bank reconciliation, that figure matches. So when you're looking at this,
Right.
which is the bank reconciliation, those figures there will match the entry against the last day of the month, whereas you're looking at both, which shows you the current position as of the 11th of April.
Right.
So you don't need to be looking at that, because that's a reflection of the bank accounts on the 11th of April.
Right.
And you don't get a copy of all of the bank statements, because you get a copy of all the payments and receipts pulled out here.
Right. So would it not be best then to run our bank statements on the last day of the month?
You can't,
So
it's not always possible. Sometimes it falls on a weekend, Alan.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
But could we not do it to the nearest day then, and then obviously we're getting the best...
No, because the purpose of me attaching the bank statement is to verify the figure on the last day of the month, which is the very first line.
Right.
And that verifies your bank reconciliation. That comes off
Right.
the system,
Yeah.
off the
Oh, yeah.
ledger, so that
Yeah.
shows you what your position is at the 31st of March.
Right.
So I print off the bank statement so I can verify that.
Yeah.
So you've got it
Yeah.
in 2 different places. That's what the bank account says,
Yeah.
and this is what our ledger says.
Yeah. And that's fine. And do these go onto the website?
Yeah.
No, it's just for clarity and confusion.
Uh-huh.
I know that now because you've explained that to me.
Yeah.
But if I'm Joe Public
Uh-huh.
and I go onto the website and I'm looking at various things, I don't know whether we need to put a statement somewhere that says that we need to look at a certain place. Not sure.
Obviously, I can have a chat with Anne, but it may be that we redact that top line if it goes onto the bank statement, so that you're just looking at that figure on the top line of the statement, and then we redact the figures on the top, because we
Okay.
would have to redact our bank account details anyway.
Yeah.
So
Right. Okay.
Could I ask you to do that? Could we have a written explanation to the members so that they... you're fully okay with it?
Yes, of
And
course,
then
Chair.
obviously when we get the figures for next month, we can make ourselves happy that we understand fully where the figures are coming from.
Yep, of course.
So, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Councillor Clark? Has anybody else got anything else to raise?
I was just going to move that we accept items B, C and D and take them all as one item, Chair.
Can I just ask one question before we agree? And this is just it's a question about the removal of the Christmas tree. Was it really that amount of money to remove the Christmas tree?
I'll second that what Angela's just done.
That's my recollection anyway. When it was discussed, it was going to be very expensive to remove it. But it's a legitimate expense, duly invoiced something for future reference. So are we okay to accept them as they are currently? Yes? Yeah. Okay. We move on to item 6, which is the action log, which I think that's the person to show us on this.
Yeah. Obviously, I've been here a couple of months now, and what I have noticed is that sometimes items appear on the agenda, they're discussed, and then they slip off and don't appear again. So what I've done is I've got an actions log for the Finance and General Purpose meeting. I've also got an actions log for the full council meeting as well. So it's basically, I've put the date on of the meeting, the agenda item, the description of the item on the agenda, what action needs to be done, and then a date that the actions are undertaken and any responses that come back, and then the date it'll come back to the next Finance and General Purposes meeting, so that they don't drop off, or that if they're recommended to go to full council, you'll see them then move on to the full council actions list, and then they'll go on to there. So I'll be honest, at the moment we do only have 2 items on the Finance and General Purpose actions list, which is the discussion that we were going to have with the Police and Crime Commissioner, Joy Allen, around the 2 police vans. That is still ongoing, but we do have an update in relation to, we've been speaking to the accountant over there, and they are looking into either funding it or making it possible so that we remain as is without the town council having to fund anything else. Yeah. See that there was any possible grants to continue with the initiative, if we could be supported, or they can support, or if we can find a way forward that everybody would be happy with. She's had her...
Carry on.
Yeah. The only reason I was asking was Joy isn't operational, so I was just a bit concerned that we were mixing the 2 up there, but we're not.
It's simply around grant funding, yeah.